Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Howdy, y'all. This is Red O'Loughlin. Today's show, the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And my option today is to talk about authoring. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do. So you want to be an author, you are an author. I think there's a lot of valuable information that we can glean from this. So let's just talk about authoring in general. When you're writing a book, who is your audience? Who are you writing to? Do you have that thought in your mind? But not only having that audience, how do you reach them? How do you actually get your book to them? And so there's a lot of different things that people do. One of the things I do, I write for baby boomers. So I may have 2 or 3 pictures of people in retirement age that I could look at, and that keeps me focused on the fact that I want to be writing to that person. And so instead of just a general audience, I try to focus in on that. So if you're writing a children's books for 1st through 3rd grade, you're writing a how-to book for professionals, whatever you're writing, try to have some visual representation. I've seen we've had actually a couple on here where they have characters in their novels, and they will actually have an illustration or a picture of their character so that when they're in that character's voice, they actually see that person there. So it helps keep that continuity of the individual. If you're in a particular location, if you have a picture of a bar, for instance, or a restaurant, or a scene, a bridge, whatever it may happen to be, it keeps the brain focused on what you're talking about. So as you're putting a book together, go ahead and collect those little vignettes of things to talk about, because that's really important in connecting with your audience. One of the first things I do, I help people get their books written, but I also publish their books. And if they've never been asked the question, well, who's your competitor? So if I say, let's just pick a name at random, I'm going to say Sally Smith. And Sally wants to write a book on gardening. I'll ask her, who's your competitor? What kind of books do they have? What do their covers look like? How big are their books? What do they sell for? How do they market their books? In other words, that kind of research is easy to do. We did that recently on Talking Heads. I'm going to say probably 4 weeks ago, where I actually did a video and I showed people how to go into Amazon, pick out the book, find the genre, click on it, and then dive down till you find the information you're looking for. What are the keywords? What are the categories? What books do the person have? What is their ranking? Let's go into who has the top 50 rankings in that particular genre. Let's look at their covers. Take a look at what kind of colors they're using, what kind of fonts are they using. A lot of just text on the cover. So I lead them through, probably a half hour to an hour competitor evaluation so that they know how to go do it on their own. Because sometimes you can change a category slightly, or depending on how you're writing your book. If I'm talking about gardening, am I talking about gardening to sell flowers, to sell plants? Am I talking about gardening as a hobby, something that I want to enjoy? Am I talking about gardening as a business? There's a lot of different little nuances that can be in there. So it may be an entrepreneurial book, it may be a how-to book, it may be something else. So take a look at who your competitors are, and particularly, if all the books are roughly 6 by 9 and you want yours to be 5 by 8. Why do you want to have a smaller book? There's a lot of reasons for it, but know what is out there in the marketplace. If you see the top 10 books, and I generally look at the top 10 of what is being, who is successful right now in the top 10 authors in those books, in those genres, in the categories. So if you know that, then that makes it pretty easy. So I want to know what the key words are for marketing. I want to know how they market. Let's say that I have a Ted Harris, just to pick a number. I don't know any Ted Harrises that I can think of right now, but let's say he has a #1 book in gardening. Well, let's go to Ted Harris's website. Does he have a newsletter? Does he have what does his Instagram account look like? What does his Facebook account look like? How is he marketing on social media? So it's a lot of free information that's available immediately to somebody before you even pick up pen to paper or fingers to keypad, whatever it may happen to be. So that, I think, is a very valuable thing. But you can look at, what does Ted sell his books for? How many pages in it? And in many cases, you get a lot of really good information by going into the book. Usually you can get the first 30 pages or so. Look at the table of contents. Is Ted offering something that Sally is not considering or doesn't want? Is Sally offering something that Ted doesn't have? That's a big selling point, value. So from that perspective, you can pick up a lot of free information. Okay, I am writing on plumerias. That's one of my favorite flowers, the typical lei you get in Hawaii as you land over there. So if I'm looking at plumerias, am I looking at a particular color, breed, not breed, genus, species, etc.? But anyway, what are the kinds of things that I can add value that the top 10 authors are not adding right now? And there's probably a lot in there, because you don't want to have a 700-page book. If you had 700 pages, that may be 5 different books. I don't know. So take a look at the way you're structuring your information. That's a pretty important thing. So you look at the table of contents. The title, I think, is super critical. Let's just talk about the title for just a second. If you're walking, let's say, in Barnes & Noble, and you go by this shelf or table, and there's a book there, and all of a sudden the cover captures your attention long enough for you to stop and actually look at the book, or as you're walking by, you're spending a fair amount of time actually looking at that book cover. Now, there's something about that book cover that caught your attention. What was it? Was it the font, the color, the picture, whatever it may happen to be? But if it captured your attention and it's of interest to you, maybe what you do is pick up the book and you look at the cover a little bit, you turn it over to the back. There's a little blurb about the author, maybe a photo, maybe not, maybe some testimonials, but there's a usually 2 or 3 sentence description of the book itself. If that is something that really interests you, just that short little couple items that says this book is about, if that piques your attention, generally people are going to look it up, open it, and go to the table of contents. My first place I go to is the copyright date. I want to see how old the book is. If the book was published in 1989, but it's evergreen material, it's good today as it was back in the 80s, that doesn't matter. A lot of times I buy books and I say, have I already read this book before? And so, in fact, that happened to me here less than a couple of weeks ago. I picked up a book, common author. I thought I had read all his books. It was actually done in 1993 or something. And I'm thinking, I don't recognize this book at all. And so I bought it, and I bought more than a few books over time, where it turns out I get into the first chapter. Oh, I've already read this book. Well, I donate it. I donate a lot of books to charities, to a library actually down in Corpus Christi area. My sister comes up here to visit me, and we just load her up with a box of books, and she takes them back, and the library is very, very happy that they're getting free books. But anyway, getting back to the thing, I read, Chad, the table of contents. Let's say chapter 5 has something that let me see what they have here. So I go to chapter 5, page 61, and I look at it. I've already had this book in my hand for probably 20 seconds or more. Now I'm actually reading something inside the book. chances are, if that appeals to what I'm looking for, I can have two choices: put the book back down, walk away, or hold the book in my hand and go to checkout with it. So that's how important having a really good cover is. Now, I have found over time that authors are probably some of the worst people in the world to choose their cover. I found this out a long time ago. My typical process for choosing a cover is I'll order 5 ebook covers off of Fiverr.com. That's 5FIVERR.com. I pay about $7-8 a piece for a designer. I give them the basic information and say, create something. I have 5 covers now. I put them on social media. I say A or B, B or C, C or D. I've known over time that my audience wants a particular kind of cover. It's not what I want. So the first thing that I do is find out, what does the audience want? Now maybe I might change the cover that I have. How can I improve it? Do I change the color slightly? Do I change the text? Do I need to change anything? And that gives me something to work with. Now, a title is not copyrightable. In other words, if you want to do a title on any book that's out there, the 50 Shades of Grey, for instance, you can't copyright that title. So you can use the same title that somebody else has very successfully used. But sometimes that doesn't, people don't hunt by a title, they hunt by keywords. So if your book is on gardening, maybe the keywords are mulching, selling, trimming, grafting. Put that in the subtitle. The keywords now can be found by a Google search. So those are things that are super critical. Title's nice and neat, but the subtitle is what the keywords need to be so people can find your book. That's super critical on that one. Do you need a website for a book? If you're only going to write one book and that's it, maybe not. But if you're thinking, okay, I'm an author, maybe I'll write a couple more books, maybe my website ought to be my name. When I started out, redolaughlin.com, I got that website, totally different business. I ended up writing a book. I thought about, do I need a website with my book title? And I said no. I asked a lot of people. And so now my books are found on my redolaughlin.com account because it's a place that everything can be found at. So I combine my speaking, my publishing, my writing, my authoring, whatever else is all found in that one website. Do you have a blog? That's probably one of the easiest ways to write a book. I've known several people who have written 50, 60, 70 blogs, and they just take and organize them into a book and publish it. So it takes you a year to write 50 blogs, one a week. Now you have a book. Now, I took probably 45 articles I wrote on Alzheimer's toward the end of COVID, and I put them all in a book. And I said, here's a book on Alzheimer's. But I had done a lot of research, and I just used all of the different blogs that I had done on that one. And then I probably have almost enough to do another book on Alzheimer's, but it is what it is. There's a pro and con about having a pre-sale date. Okay, let's say that I want to publish this book for Black Friday. Black Friday, I guess is what it is. They're around Thanksgiving. Writing a book, getting it published, getting the covers done. In fact, actually getting the covers done is probably the hardest part as far as the publishing process goes. I've had many books come down to the very, very wire, and we're just sitting there. And a couple of them actually didn't get published on time because the cover couldn't be done properly. And it's not that you didn't have a cover, it's just that having an ebook cover is one thing, not a problem. Having a paperback cover is a different format. It's a PDF versus a JPEG. But the PDF, you have to have the front cover, the back cover, and the spine. To have the spine, you need to know how many pages the book is. And if you find somebody who's done 1,000 books design-wise, they pretty much know what they're doing. But if you get a really super deal, let's say they're going to do your cover for $10, your PDF. Well, maybe they're not as experienced as others, and there's a potential that something could go wrong. I've had this go wrong on doing hardcover books because they don't follow the format of the paperback. The paperback contents and the hardcover contents are literally almost exactly the same, unless you change the size of the hardcover and the paperback. But the cover of the hardback is going to be different, and you can't use the PDF for that one. And so I've had people a lot of difficulty, even with instructions from Amazon and Kindle, can't provide what I'm looking for my clients. Um, One of the other things that's not difficult, but let's talk about AI for a second, artificial intelligence. I had a client recently, he wrote a book, I think going back 4 or 5 generations, and he wanted a book on the Texas prairie back about 1850. And I did a little bit of AI for him on having a cover designed. I gave him 5 covers and said, which of these do you like? He gave me 2 covers. I sent the covers to Fiverr. And I guess they did 3 different designers and give me an ebook cover back. I sent him that. He picked one of the 3 and said, okay, that's it. I went back to the ebook cover designer and said, that's great. I like it. My client loves it. Let's make a paperback cover. Here's the size of the book. Here's the number of pages. And boom, within a couple of days, he had everything he needed. So that's pretty critical on getting your covers done. But do you get them done within a particular time frame? Let's say that I'm writing a book on Alzheimer's, and I don't know what national month of Alzheimer's is. Let's just say September. I may be out of luck right now trying to get my book written and published in a couple days so I can advertise it as part of National Alzheimer's Month. Or I wait a year and do it next September. So take a look. There's calendars out there that tells you when there are national dates for various events. So if you happen to have a book on gardening and you know that June is National Gardening Month, maybe June is a good time to release your book, because now you have a lot of information that's out there. Otherwise, it's helping you. So if you go with a pre-sale, that's for the ebook. You really and truly have to meet that requirement. If not, there are some severe penalties that they will impose upon you if you don't meet that requirement. The author biography and the book description, I mentioned earlier on the back cover, you have 2 or 3 sentences for the author account, 2 or 3 sentences for the book description. Inside your author account on Amazon KDP, there's no limit. You can have the whole page of author biography, a whole page of description, bullets, all sorts of stuff that you want to have to describe your book, etc. But on the back of the book, you have just a very small amount of information. I've seen some books that have half a page talking about the description and no author information. Lots and lots of different things. So take a look at a lot of books and see what's out there. But you can use AI to take and say, write me an author bio, no more than 50 words for a paperback book. Write me a bio for Amazon for my author account, 300 words. And then you just give them your resume, a biography, whatever you want to give AI, and let them do the work. Take a look at the finished product, tweak it the way you want, regenerate it 2 or 3 times so you get exactly what you want. And the same thing with the description. You can get a really nice description, very well done, tweak it so it sounds like it's a human talking to you. And you can have the bigger description put in Amazon, same thing for the author account. Well, that's pretty simple to do. Social media. If you're writing a book and you have not put pen to paper yet, that's a good time to start holding yourself accountable. Let's say that you want to publish this book next June. Well, that's a long time. How do you get it done? Well, most people may come up with a table of contents. If you already speak on this topic, maybe you have an easy way to do it. But take a look at what is realistic. It's going to take you a couple, 3 months, maybe, to write the book. It may take you a couple, 3 months or longer to get it edited, proofread, get the covers done. So if you look at a 6-month horizon, yeah, it sounds like a long time, but maybe it's not so long. So do you really need to have that? Well, let's say today is the 1st of September. It almost is. the 29th of August. Let's say that I have 9 months between now and the end of June. I want to be out there on social media telling people, hey, I'm writing a book on gardening. What kind of gardening questions can you not find answers to? Maybe start soliciting a group of people who are following you. The mere fact that you've put that information out there is holding yourself accountable. I'm writing a book on gardening in June. It'll be published. The world knows. Now you're accountable. And if you want to start taking your chapters and sending them out to beta readers, people who can read for content, read for spelling, diction, etc., then you have the time to get that information back, filter it in. If you're working on a novel or something like that, that may take a lot longer than 6 months, because you need to have character development, location development, plot development, and that is a much greater problem than not. Now, I typically use depending on what's going on, a different method, but I break it down into what is the easiest way for me to get the book done. And so if I'm looking at, let's say I'm a speaker and I can speak on motivation, I can speak on self-improvement, I can speak on any aspect of something, I have a number of different ways I can go. So there's one method called the 1-3-5-7-9 method. I have one topic. Let's call it speaking. The 3 is just like not table of contents, a organizational chart. So I have 3 things I want to talk about speaking: impromptu speaking, keynote speaking, and networking. So maybe on the networking, I need a 30-second to not that I have the title. I have 3 areas that I'm speaking on. And then within each one of those 3 areas, I want 5 distinct topics. So maybe on the impromptu, that could be an elevator speech. That can be somebody says, well, what do you do? Tell me about your book. You're in an event and you meet somebody, and there's a lot of things that you can do with regard to impromptu. If you're looking at a keynote speech, well, how do you organize a keynote speech? If you're looking at networking, what is important? You're solving problems that somebody has. They may not know they have a problem. You don't say, well, I'm an author and I write books on gardening. Well, maybe somebody has a gardening problem that bothers them a lot, but you have to be able to describe your solution in such a manner that you're not selling something to somebody. And that's a key word. People know when people are selling something. You pick up the phone and so you can tell within 10 seconds if somebody wants to sell you something. You're not there to sell your book. You're not there to sell yourself. In a networking environment, you're there to solve problems. So you present a problem and you say, this book talks about this, this, and this, and I'd be more than happy to chat with you offline. So you're not necessarily selling something, but you're offering a solution. So there are a number of different things. So let's say on one of the solutions, the networking part of that thing, how do you set up a follow-up meeting? Well, that may be one of the 7 things under each one of the 5. So in other words, you have the first one is speaking. You have 3 distinct topics. Each one of those topics has 5 things on it. Each one of those 5 has 7 things. Now, will they all have 7? No. One may have 4, one may have 6. But what it does is it structures your book so that as you're talking about keynote speaking, now you have organization all the way down to things you talk about all the time. If you're talking about networking, now you have a structure going down that side. And that's one way of doing it when you have a wealth of knowledge and things you do all the time. But let's talk about another way of doing it. This is a very handy tool to write your book. If I were to say, Sally Smith, tell me about the first car you ever had, or tell me about the first plant you ever grew. When you're asking a question as an interview, it makes it super simple. They know the answers. If I ask a question about, tell me about the first car, boom, they know what it is. I've had 1 or 2 people who never had a first car. That was a bummer of a question because I didn't expect them not to ever have a car, but it happens. But they know their writing material so well that it doesn't matter. They can answer any question on that. So I tell people come up with 30 questions. Most of the time, they cannot even do 20 that people need to know the answers to that it's going to be in your book. If you have 30 questions, that's probably 2 books. But if you have 20, pick the best 12 to 14, and those are your chapters. So if I talk about my first car, that's chapter 1. If I talk about the places I went to or whatever, so my first car, chapter 1. Bulletize under that, just in 2 or 3 words, what do I want to talk about? Well, if I tell you that one of my first cars I had, I'm driving with my sister-in-law over the Crosstown Expressway in Corpus Christi. It was an old 1956 Buick. It didn't have a hood latch that latched the hood down. I had to actually lock it down with a chain. I'm driving at 60 miles an hour, and all of a sudden the hood comes popping up on me. Now I have to drive my head out the window to get over off to the side to jump on the hot top and push the hood back down. I forgot to lock the hood down. Forget it. I had another one. I'm coming down the High Bridge in Corpus Christi, and I'm coming down the High Bridge in Corpus Christi, and my left rear tire comes off and passes me. And all of a sudden, clunk, and I'm going down the side of the bridge on 3 wheels and a brake drum. I find my tire, I get it put back on the car, luckily, and manage to drive away. And we're having a major thunderstorm outside right now, and that may be part of the problem with the video quality. But we'll see how that goes. I just got a flash of light. So if I lose people, it's because electricity went off, just to give you a forewarning. But let's talk about, if I record that on let's say Sally and I are doing this. She's telling me the answers to her questions. I'm asking them. We're recording the conversation. There's a lot of apps out there that will take that oral conversation, put it into text format, and now I have a written manuscript of my book. And all I did was answer questions, something I feel very comfortable doing. When I do an answer like that, most of the time I don't need a major edit because it's coming from exactly what I'm saying. I may go in there and tweak things here, there, and yonder. One of the things AI is very good for, let's say that I want to have my book written for 8th grade level or 7th grade level or 5th grade, whatever. I can tell it to proofread for 8th grade level, and I can take a look at, well, here's my version, here's AI's version. What do I want to use? Because there may be something in there that they're saying, maybe you're using the words too long, or maybe you're using uncommon. There's a lot of things there. Don't use AI to write the book, although a lot of people do that, but use AI as a tool like any other tool out there. But that way you can get your manuscript written fairly quickly. That's a no-brainer for all practical purposes. How much, okay, now you have a book cover, you have a book that's written, you're marketing it on social media. How much should it cost? Well, if you did your competitor analysis, you know that maybe the average price of the books go from $14.99 to $24.99. If you're offering a lot of value, maybe your book should be in that $24.99, $22.99 category. If it's a lot of material, it's available anywhere on the internet, maybe your book is a $11.99 book. Now, if you want to get into the #1 ranking, you're looking at number of sales for the book when it first comes out in the first couple, 3 days. You're looking for reviews, you're looking for a lot of things. But if you're offering your book at $20 a piece, probably not going to get a lot of people out buying a $20 book on a brand new author. But let's say your ebook is 99 cents. People may take a shot at a 99-cent ebook. So maybe setting your book at 99 cents is an easy way to go. And that is something that you should, if you have a marketing person that you're working with, that may be a little bit of thunder there and a little bit of light shiver. Anyway, the pricing is something that, and 3, 4, 5 days later, 2 weeks, you can change the price. You can change the cover. You can change the content. You can change a lot of things. A lot of things that are there. But the one thing that you really and truly want to make sure is you have a good quality product. So that book is edited to the best you can. I'll tell you right now, at some point in time, you got to declare victory and move on, because you can edit that thing and edit it and edit it. And 2 months later, you're still editing. And then all of a sudden you have the book in hand. Oh, I found something. There are going to be errors in the book. And at some point in time, you can get them all out. But if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting to publish the book, chances are you're not going to get your book published in a timely manner. The strategy I like with regard to having my editing done is I'll have a party at my house, dessert party, wine and cheese, whatever it may happen to be. And I will hand out random chapters, a clipboard, a red pen, and I'm saying I write on health and wellness, and I get sometimes pretty deep into the subject. I want to know, do they understand what I wrote? So I get an extra 8 or 10 or 12 sets of eyes over a couple of nights, people who are not experts in this category, and all they're doing is reading. I say, if you don't understand it, circle it. Circle a sentence, circle the word, circle a paragraph. I need to know what is difficult to read. So from that particular perspective, I get a lot of, not free because I'm paying for them. They come over, we spend about 30 minutes on social intercourse. A lot of times these people have never met each other. And then for an hour, hour and a half, they just go to various parts of the room, sit down and edit. They get done with the chapter, they pick it up, and there's several more on the table, and they just go pick up another chapter, boom. So I now have 5 or 6 or 8 different chapters with edits on it. Okay. I had one really interesting one that sticks with me, and I've learned my lesson is I use the word if a lot. And one of the editors said, you should really consider whether the word if is the right word or when. And so when establishes a different mindset compared to if. And so I went through there and I had 86 times I used if in my book. And it turned out that 81 or 82 of them should have been when. And so it's one of those things I learned. The word that. Sometimes you don't need the word that. A lot of times you don't need the word that. There are a lot of things that people can help you with. So, whoa, nice little thunderclap there. The other things here, let's see what we have. As I'm getting ready to publish the book, the photos, let's say you have photos in your book. If they're your photos, no problem. If you are publishing a paperback, it's cheaper to publish photos with black and white photos. And there's some software out there free that you can take and adjust the color contrast. So sometimes when I'm doing a book for someone, they have some pictures, and the picture quality is such that you can't see much contrast. I'll go in there and I'll really change the color hue so that it looks weird as a color picture. But when you convert it to a black and white, it's very sharp, very distinct. So there's little tricks you can do, cropping things out. But you have to make sure you have permission to sell to publish that one. I've only had one time, and I've done thousands and thousands of blogs where I always put stuff in there. Somebody came back and said, this ship turned out to be a ship. And I was talking about Vietnam. And they said, our client owns this. It's not a royalty free. Well, I went ahead and changed it the same day. It was a law firm. I sent them a copy of what I used. And I went back and I found the original ship picture, and it was on a free, royalty-free website. So I went back to the law firm and said, hey, I researched, I found, this is where I found it at. It's a royalty-free website, just for your information. So pictures are something that I think that are there. And depending on how you structure the photos in the book, that can be very, very effective. Picking your category is probably one of the most important things that you're doing, because now you're picking the competitors you're going up against on a daily basis. And these competitors have sold thousands, maybe even millions of books to be number one in that category. So if you're looking at, if you put your book out on gardening and Oprah Winfrey puts a book out on gardening the same day or the same week that you did, chances are you're not going to sell much because all the national publicity is going somewhere else. So you can do everything right and not have anything be sold the first week because somebody else came out there and beat you to it. Does that mean that, hey, let's take 6 weeks off, I come back again and I do a new release? Same book, same everything. I just now publicize it as a new release date. That's a way of working around that one. Let's see, what else am I trying to think? How are you getting paid for most of the time you set up something in your author account on Amazon. You have 4 pages. The first talks about the book. The second one talks about the actual content of the book, the cover and the contents. The third one talks about pricing. The fourth one is your royalties. That's your banking information. So as you buy a book off of Amazon or any other, there's going to be information there that they're going to have to be able to send you a royalty check to. So that's something that you need your routing numbers and all the rest of that stuff. And all of a sudden now, let's say that you're selling books in the front of the classroom or church or networking group, and somebody says, here's cash. Always take cash. Here's a hint. Let's say you're selling your book for $15, and somebody comes up to you and says, all I got's 10. Take it. Don't even think about it. Just take it. It's cash. But let's say that you're at an event and somebody says, I want 2 books. Do you take a check? Yeah, well, yeah. Do you take Zelle? Okay. If there are ways of paying you, you should have those ways in your pocket, on your phone, whatever it may happen to be, so that you can get paid. That's super important. I use Square. There's a lot of things out there that you can use that will easily be able to translate somebody's credit card into your bank account. So as you're putting things together, if you have a website, make sure there's a way on the website to send people to Amazon to get paid or to yourself. And with that, I see we're just about ending up. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little summary. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships, treat a cause, fix a problem, treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. So I write on health and wellness. I write very deep into what causes diseases. I write books on that. I speak on it. I help people get their books written as a book coach. I publish books for people. I've done 4 or 5 dozen books for clients. And I also host TV shows. So I'm on the show here as the Corner Bookstore. I'm always looking for authors that are interested in talking about their books and their author experience. And I have the Wise Ones, which is coming up next, where we talk about people, maybe authors, maybe entrepreneurs. And then I have a show right after that called Talking Heads, where this particular week I'm talking on the heart of health. And actually, we did a couple weeks already on longevity. Now we're actually getting into the heart of health, the heart. So please join me if you can. The next show starts here in about 18 minutes, and that's the Wise Ones. And after that is Talking Heads at 1 o'clock Central. So with that, I bid you adieu. Take care. Red Laughlin signing out. Bye now.
5 little known secrets for dementia caregivers with Tracy Cram-Perkins.
Hi there, I am Tracy Cram-Perkins, the host of the Dementia Home Care Show here on USA Global TV and Radio. I am also the author of the book of the same name. And you'll see this QR code. This is for an extended version of the same talk. So if you want to see the full hour-long version, feel free to scan the code and go to that website. Stick with me. We'll talk about 5 little known secrets to make it a little easier to do dementia caregiving. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is a healthy aged brain, age 55 and above. The one you're seeing on the right is an Alzheimer's disease brain. It is in moderate disease. It is shrinking. It has holes in it. The memories that were in those holes no longer exist. When you're learning something, let's say in kindergarten, you learn how to tie your shoelace. Well, then by the time you're in 2nd grade, your brain remembers that information from tying the shoelace and applies it so you can learn more quickly how to tie more complex knots. So the brain is hardwired to do this for us, so it helps us learn faster so it doesn't take us long to acquire knowledge. The brain is looking for the information and they pick the closest to wherever that hole is. Let's look at some tips that we can use to help do that.
These are 5 simple tools you can use as a dementia caregiver to help your loved one. The whiteboard is a useful tool in recording the day's activities and the answers to repetitive questions. The calendar clock is a very useful tool to orient your loved one on the day, the date, and the time, and remind them of upcoming appointments. The communication cards are a great tool to bridge the gap when they can no longer tell you what's wrong. And then there's the pill minder, for when your loved one is still able to take pills but needs prompting. The final tool I want to share with you is the memory book. It tells your loved one's story. It's a great tool for distraction, redirection, also as a conversation starter, and telling you where they are in their story so you know how to answer their questions.
Music is probably the most powerful tool in your toolbox after laughter. Music is a way to maintain connection. It sticks with your brain longer than any other thing, including reading. When you're having an issue with somebody, you can play their favorite music if you move them to another room, something that makes them happy, or you can start singing songs together from their childhood. These are some of my favorite books for caregivers. My show airs on the third Tuesday of every month, and you can view past episodes on YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
This program has been brought to you in part by Tracy Cram Perkins. Connect with her and order her book at tracycramperkins.com. For more information about Alzheimer's disease, support resources, and how you can help, contact the Alzheimer's Association at 1-800-272-3900 or visit their website at www.alz.org. They offer 24/7 helpline support and a wealth of information to assist you and your loved ones.